He was never the kind of man who lied easily. That's what I believed anyway. For 12 years, I watched him fumble through white lies about why we were late to dinner parties, watched him cave immediately when our daughter asked if he'd eaten the last piece of cake. He was transparent as water. That was the foundation I built my marriage on. Not passion, not adventure, but the simple certainty that Mark couldn't hide anything, even if he tried. The first wellness retreat happened in March. His company had just rolled out some initiative about employee burnout, the kind of corporate theater that costs more than it helps. Top performers in the sales division got a long weekend at Lakeside Serenity Resort, 3 hours north, guided meditation, organic meals, digital detox workshops where they'd learn to be present. He showed me the email with the itinerary and we both laughed. Mark doing sunrise yoga, Mark drinking green juice. It was absurd enough to be harmless. Take pictures, I told him. I want evidence. He did. Every few hours, a new image would arrive. A sunset over the lake, the kind that looks photoshopped but isn't. A water bottle with the company logo. His shoes beside a meditation cushion. Once, a selfie, where he was clearly trying not to laugh. Some instructor visible in the background, demonstrating a pose. The photos felt like proof of exactly what he said he was doing. I saved them. I don't know why. Maybe because even then, some part of me understood that proof can mean different things, depending on when you look at it. The house was quieter when he was gone, but not in a bad way. Our daughter Emma was 15, deep into that phase where parents exist primarily as obstacles or ATMs. She barely noticed when he left. I worked through the weekend. I'm a project manager at a tech firm, always behind on something, and enjoyed the silence. The rhythm of a weekend alone felt like a small vacation itself. No negotiations about dinner, no one leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor. Just me, my laptop, and the particular kind of peace that comes from not having to be anyone's wife for 72 hours. He came home Sunday evening with that specific exhaustion people get from enforced relaxation. "How was it?" I asked, and he groaned theatrically. "I meditated for 45 minutes this morning. 45 minutes of sitting still and thinking about my breath. I almost fell asleep 3 times. Did you achieve enlightenment?" I achieved a cramp in my left calf. We fell back into our routine. Monday morning, he left for work before I was fully awake, his coffee mug rinsed and placed in the dishwasher, his kiss on my forehead so practiced it barely woke me. That night, we had salmon and roasted vegetables. Emma complained about her English teacher. Mark scrolled through his phone during dinner, which annoyed me, but not enough to say anything. This was marriage in year 12. Comfortable, textured by tiny resentments. Functional, we didn't fight much anymore, but we didn't really talk either. We existed in parallel, 2 people who'd built a life together and were now simply maintaining it. The second retreat came in June. Same resort, same itinerary, same jokes between us. This time he sent fewer photos, just the obligatory sunset and one of a stone labyrinth they were supposed to walk mindfully. I was neck deep in a product launch at work, grateful he was gone because it meant I could stay late at the office without guilt. Emma was at her friend's house most of the weekend. I ate cereal for dinner 2 nights in a row, standing at the counter, scrolling through project timelines. It felt efficient. It felt fine. September brought the third retreat. By then, it had become routine, almost boring. "Wellness weekend again?" I asked when he mentioned it, and he nodded, already packing his bag with the same items. Athletic clothes he never wore at home, a journal the company provided, noise-canceling headphones. I noticed he'd gotten particular about what he brought. Everything folded precisely, tucked into specific compartments of his overnight bag. When had he become so organized about packing? Mark, who usually threw things into a suitcase 5 minutes before leaving for the airport? I didn't think about it. That's the thing about marriages that function on autopilot. You stop examining the machinery. You just trust that it works because it's worked before. He left Friday afternoon. Emma had a sleepover. I ordered Thai food and watched a documentary about a financial scandal, the kind of thing Mark found boring. My phone buzzed with his arrival text. "Made it. Weather's perfect. Miss you." 3 sentences that felt complete, conclusive, requiring no response beyond a heart emoji. Saturday. I deep cleaned the kitchen, something I'd been meaning to do for weeks. I was reorganizing the junk drawer, that catch-all space where batteries and rubber bands and spare keys accumulate, when my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I almost didn't answer. Hi, Mrs. Morrison. This is Jessica from Mark's office. I recognized her voice. His assistant, young and aggressively cheerful, the kind of person who signs emails with multiple exclamation points. We'd met once at a holiday party. She'd complimented my dress, and I'd thought she seemed sweet but exhausting. Hi, Jessica. Mark's actually at the wellness retreat this weekend. I know. That's why I'm calling. I have a travel reimbursement form that needs his signature by Monday, and I wasn't sure if I should email it or just wait until... Oh, she laughed, that bright customer service laugh. Hi, Lauren. I didn't realize you were on speaker. Sorry, I was just telling your wife about the form. Silence. 3 seconds of it, maybe 4. The kind of silence that opens like a trap door. This is his wife, I said. Her voice changed instantly, all the brightness draining out. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought I must have been thinking of, there's a Lauren in the sales department and I'm so sorry, Mrs. Morrison. It's fine, I said automatically, the way you do when something isn't fine but acknowledging that feels too big. Just email him the form. I hung up. Set the phone down on the counter, picked it up again, put it back down. Lauren in the sales department. I'd met her once too, at the same holiday party. Tall, blonde, around 30. She'd monopolized Mark's attention for 20 minutes, talking about some client account. I'd stood nearby with a glass of wine, feeling invisible and not particularly caring. Work people always talked like that at parties, falling into their professional language, excluding everyone else. It hadn't bothered me then. Why would Jessica think I was Lauren? The question lodged itself somewhere behind my sternum. I tried to logic it away. Jessica was young, probably flustered, mixing up names. People did that. It meant nothing. But the more I told myself it meant nothing, the heavier it sat. I went back to cleaning the kitchen, but my hands were moving on autopilot. I kept replaying the moment. That bright, hi, Lauren, like she'd expected Lauren to be there. Like it was natural for Lauren to be answering Mark's wife's phone. No, I was being paranoid. This was Mark. Mark who couldn't lie about eating cake. Mark who'd never given me a reason to doubt him. Mark who sent sunset photos from corporate wellness retreats. I looked at those photos again. Really looked at them. The sunset could have been taken anywhere. The water bottle proved nothing. The selfie showed only him, a sliver of generic resort architecture behind him. These weren't proof of where he was. They were just proof that he wanted me to believe he was there. Stop, I told myself. This is insane, but I didn't stop. I opened my laptop and searched for Lakeside Serenity Resort. Their website loaded, tasteful earth tones, stock photos of people doing yoga, a phone number in the header. I stared at that number for 10 minutes before I called it. Lakeside Serenity, this is Maya speaking. How can I help you today? Professional, warm, probably reading from a script. Hi, I need to confirm a reservation for this weekend. For Mark Morrison? Keys clicking, a pause. I'm showing a check-in yesterday for a Morrison, party of 2. What name is the reservation under? I'm seeing Morrison Shaw. My maiden name was Reed. Mark's mother's maiden name was Pierce. There was no Shaw in our family, but Lauren's last name was Shaw. I knew this because I'd looked her up on LinkedIn once after the holiday party, idle curiosity about the woman Mark mentioned occasionally from work. Thank you, I said, and hung up before she could ask anything else. I sat very still at the kitchen table. The house was completely silent except for the refrigerator's hum, that sound you only notice when everything else disappears. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking. I felt nothing, actually, just a strange cold clarity, like I'd stepped outside my own body and was watching myself receive information that would change everything. Party of 2. Morrison Shaw. I pulled up Mark's text from Friday night. Made it. Weather's perfect. Miss you. I'd sent back a heart emoji. He'd responded with one too. That was 12 hours ago. Since then, nothing. No sunset photo, no joke about the meditation, nothing. I called him. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. His voice recorded months ago, cheerful and generic. You've reached Mark Morrison. Leave a message. I didn't leave one. I called again, voicemail again. I texted, call me when you can. The message showed as delivered. Not read, just delivered. I opened Emma's location on my phone. We had one of those family tracking apps she complained about but tolerated. She was exactly where she said she'd be, at Rachel's house across town. I could drive over there, pick her up, tell her we were going somewhere. But where? And to do what? Confront her father with our 15-year-old daughter in the car? Instead, I sat at the table and started looking through our credit card statements. We had separate cards, but a joint account. I could see everything if I logged into the banking app. I'd never done this before, never felt the need. Now I scrolled backward through months of charges, looking for patterns. Nothing unusual. Grocery stores, gas stations, his lunches at the same rotation of restaurants near his office. The charges during retreat weekends were minimal. His company covered the resort costs. Maybe a coffee at a highway rest stop on the drive up. Once, a charge at a bookstore in some town I didn't recognize, but it was 23,047 dollars. You don't have an affair for 2347 dollars, but you might stop at a bookstore on the way to one. I was thinking like a detective now, like someone on a television show, connecting dots that might not actually form a picture. Except Jessica had called me Lauren, and the resort had confirmed a party of 2. And Mark had gone on these retreats 4 times. No, 3 times this year. Once in March, once in June, once now. That was 9 days total. 9 days every year at a luxury resort with someone who wasn't his wife. How long did it take to fall in love in 9 days? How long did it take to destroy a marriage? My phone buzzed. Mark, finally. Sorry, was in a workshop with no phones. Everything okay? I stared at that message for a long time. The careful casualness of it, the plausible excuse. Everything calibrated to sound exactly like a husband at a corporate retreat, checking in with his wife. I typed, Jessica called about a form. She thought I was Lauren. I watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again, taking too long. A simple "who's Lauren" would take 2 seconds. This was taking 30, 40, 50 seconds. Finally. Ha! She's always mixing people up. I'll talk to her Monday. Ha! Like it was funny. Like this was a small embarrassing mistake. Nothing more. I typed back. I called the resort to make sure you got there okay. They said party of 2. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, didn't come back. I waited 5 minutes, 10, 15. Then my phone rang. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Heard my own voice say hello and was surprised by how steady it sounded. Sarah. His voice was different, lower, careful. I can explain. Then explain. Not over the phone. I'll come home. I'll leave right now. We can talk. Is she there with you? Silence. Is Lauren there with you right now, Mark? Sarah. Answer the question. Yes. The word landed like something physical. I felt it in my chest, in my throat, somewhere behind my eyes. But still no tears, just that strange, cold clarity. How long? We can talk when I get home. How long, Mark? He exhaled, long and shaky. Since March. Since March. Since the first retreat. 6 months. 2 full quarters. 3 long weekends I'd spent alone, grateful for the peace, while my husband was 3 hours north pretending to meditate with a woman 10 years younger. Don't come home tonight, I said. I need time. Sarah, please. I hung up. The kitchen was still silent. The refrigerator still hummed. Outside Amelia, a neighbor's dog barked twice, then stopped. Nothing had changed in the physical world. The dishes I'd washed earlier were still in the drying rack. The junk drawer was still half sorted, batteries and rubber bands scattered across the counter. But everything was different now. The air felt different. The light coming through the window felt different. I felt different. Like someone had reached inside me and moved all my organs half an inch to the left. Everything still there, technically functional, but wrong. I picked up my phone and called my sister. Hey! Rebecca's voice was bright, normal, belonging to a world where husbands went on wellness retreats and came home. What's up? Mark's having an affair. The brightness died instantly. What? How do you know? I told her, all of it. The phone call, the resort, the text exchange. My voice stayed level throughout, factual, like I was describing a project timeline at work. Problem identified, evidence gathered, conclusion reached. Jesus Christ, Rebecca said when I finished. Are you okay? I don't know. I don't feel anything. That's shock. That's normal. Do you want me to come over? Emma's at Rachel's. I don't want her to know yet. Then I'm coming over. You shouldn't be alone right now. But I wanted to be alone. I wanted to sit in this moment, in this new reality, and understand its dimensions before I had to explain it to anyone else. Before it became a story I'd tell over and over, smoothing its edges, making it make sense. Tomorrow, I said. Come over tomorrow. Tonight, I just need to think. After we hung up, I poured a glass of wine I didn't drink. I sat on the couch where Mark and I had watched television every night for 12 years. His spot was on the left, mine on the right. There was an actual indentation in the cushion where he sat, the fabric slightly more worn than the rest. Evidence of habitual presence. The archaeology of a marriage. I tried to remember when things had changed. There must have been a moment when he'd looked at me and decided I wasn't enough. Or a moment when he'd looked at Lauren and decided she was more. But I couldn't locate it. Every memory felt contaminated now, every smile or kiss or casual "love you" before work suddenly suspect. Had he meant any of it? Or had it all been performance, the careful maintenance of appearances while his real life happened elsewhere? The March retreat. That was the first one. What had I been doing that weekend? I checked my calendar. Product launch prep. I'd worked both days. I remembered feeling virtuous about it, productive. I'd even texted him. Hope you're finding your zen. I'm finding mine in spreadsheets. He'd sent back a meditation emoji and a joke about how corporate spirituality was an oxymoron. Was Lauren there beside him when he typed that? Were they laughing together at how easy it was to fool me? My phone buzzed. Mark again. I'm so sorry. You deserve better than this. I never meant to hurt you. I read it twice. The passive construction. Never meant to. As if the hurt was an accident, something that happened to me rather than something he did. As if intention mattered more than outcome. I didn't respond. Another message. Please talk to me. I know you're angry, but we can work through this. As if this was a shared problem. As if I'd participated in building this betrayal. I turned off my phone. The silence that followed felt larger than before. I sat in it, let it fill the room, thought about all the times I'd been grateful for Mark's retreats, the freedom of a weekend alone, the relief of not having to negotiate or compromise. I'd congratulated myself on having a mature marriage, one that didn't require constant togetherness. I'd thought independence was strength. Maybe it was just absence we'd both been practicing for. Around midnight, I went upstairs to our bedroom. The bed was made. I'd done that this morning. Hospital corners and decorative pillows I immediately removed every night. Mark's nightstand held a book he'd been reading for months, a phone charger, a lip balm he used in winter. Small objects that testified to his presence, his routines, his life lived parallel to mine. I opened his nightstand drawer. I don't know what I was looking for. Love letters, receipts, a confession written on hotel stationery, but there was just the usual detritus, expired coupons, a sleep mask, chapstick, earbuds, a half-empty pack of gum. Under the gum was a resort brochure, Lakeside Serenity, couples wellness packages. I opened it. Someone had circled the romantic reconnection weekend in blue pen. I recognized Mark's handwriting. Below the circled text, a note in different handwriting, smaller, rounder. This one? Lauren's handwriting probably. Lauren's smiley face. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding this piece of paper that proved they'd planned this together. Discussed packages, made jokes, drew smiley faces. While I was home making dinner and helping Emma with homework and maintaining the machinery of our family life, Mark was somewhere planning his escape from it. I didn't cry. I wanted to cry. Felt like crying would be appropriate, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Instead, I folded the brochure carefully and put it back in the drawer. Evidence preserved. Then I got into bed, on my side, and lay very still in the dark. Sleep was impossible, so I didn't try. I just lay there, watching the ceiling fan turn, listening to the house settle around me. Every sound felt amplified. The ice maker in the freezer, the furnace clicking on, a car passing on our street, the world continuing as if nothing had changed. By 3 a.m., I'd made a list in my head. Things I needed to do. Tell Emma. Call a lawyer. Change the locks. No, don't be dramatic. Pack his things. Where would they go? Did I want him to leave, or did I want to leave? Did it matter who left as long as someone did? I thought about Lauren, tried to picture her. All I could remember was blonde hair and a confident laugh. the kind of woman who looked like she'd never doubted anything in her life. What did she have that I didn't? Youth, obviously, but more than that, presence, maybe, attention, the ability to make Mark feel like the center of her universe instead of a familiar piece of furniture. I'd stopped seeing Mark years ago. I'd stopped looking at him, really looking. He'd become husband, father, provider, functional roles rather than a person. When had that happened? When had we both agreed to stop being interesting to each other? But that didn't make this fair. That didn't make this right. People got comfortable in marriages. People got busy. That didn't give you permission to blow up everything you'd built. At 5 a.m., I got up and made coffee, sat at the kitchen table as the sun started to rise, painting everything gray, then gold, then ordinary. Another Saturday morning. Emma would sleep until noon. Mark was 3 hours north, probably not sleeping either. Or maybe sleeping fine, relieved that the secret was finally out. My phone was still off. I turned it on. 17 missed messages, most from Mark, a few from Rebecca checking on me. I ignored them all and texted Emma. "Change of plans, I'm picking you up at 10. We need to talk." She responded immediately, teenagers and their phones. "Why? What happened?" "Just be ready at 10. The drive to Rachel's house took 15 minutes. Emma came out looking suspicious and annoyed, her normal expression. She got in the passenger seat, backpack between her feet, smelling like Rachel's house, cinnamon candles, and that specific teenage girl perfume that all her friends seemed to wear. "What's going on?" she asked. I drove for 2 blocks before answering. "Your dad and I are having some problems." "What kind of problems?" "Adult problems. Marriage problems." She stared at me. "Are you getting divorced?" "I don't know yet." "Is he having an affair?" I had underestimated her. Of course I had. 15-year-olds aren't children. They understand betrayal. They've watched it in movies, read about it online, seen it happen to their friends' parents. "Yes," I said. She was quiet for a long time. Then, "With who?" "Someone from his work." "Do I know her?" "No." Another silence. When I glanced over, her jaw was clenched, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. I recognized her father in that expression, the same way she looked when she was hurt, but determined not to show it. "Is he going to move out?" she asked. "I don't know yet. We haven't talked about details." "Where is he now?" "At the resort, with her." "Jesus, Mom." Her voice cracked slightly. "That's so fucked up." I didn't correct her language. It was fucked up. The profanity was appropriate. When we got home, Emma went straight to her room and shut the door. I heard her on the phone, probably telling her friends, let her have that, let her narrate this in whatever way she needed. I sat in the kitchen again. My spot. The place I'd been sitting when everything changed. I thought about all the meals we'd eaten at this table, birthday dinners, homework sessions, Sunday morning pancakes. The accumulation of ordinary moments that made a family. Could you just erase that? Could one person's decision to be selfish undo all of it? Around noon, Mark called. I answered this time. "Are you home?" I asked. "I'm in the car, 40 minutes out." "Is she with you?" "No, she's staying at the resort." How generous, how considerate, letting the wife and husband have their confrontation in private. "Did you tell Emma?" he asked. "Yes." "How is she?" "How do you think she is, Mark?" Silence, then, "I'm sorry, I know that's not enough, but I am. We'll talk when you get here." I hung up before he could say anything else. 38 minutes later, I counted, I heard his car in the driveway, the engine shutting off, the door opening and closing with that specific sound I knew so well. His key in the lock, the tumbler turning, the door opening. He came into the kitchen looking like he'd been hit by something large and fast. Unshaven, wearing the same clothes from yesterday, his eyes red-rimmed. He stopped in the doorway as if the room itself might harm him. "Sarah," he said. I was sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug that had gone cold hours ago. I didn't stand up, didn't move toward him, just looked at him like he was a stranger I was trying to memorize. "Sit," I said. He sat across from me. Our usual spots, the same seats we'd occupied for 12 years, but everything was different now. The space between us felt like a chasm. "Talk," I said. He took a breath. It started in March. At the first retreat, we were in the same meditation workshop, and afterward we got coffee. Just talking. Nothing happened that weekend, but we kept talking after, at work, text messages. Then at the June retreat, he stopped. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you what happened. You slept with her? Yes. Multiple times? Yes. On company time, at company events? He nodded. And this weekend? September? Same. How many times total? Sarah, how many times did you check into that resort with her pretending to be your wife? 3. So 9 days. 9 days out of our marriage. It's more complicated than that. I laughed. Actually laughed. Don't. Don't you dare make this complicated. You lied to me. You lied to our daughter. You put someone else in my place and pretended it was self-care. I never meant for it to go this far. When did you mean for it to stop? He didn't answer. Did you tell her you loved her? His silence was confirmation. Do you want a divorce? No, God, no. I want to fix this. Fix this. I set down the mug. You can't fix this, Mark. You broke something you can't rebuild. Marriages survive this. People work through mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. You planned this. You looked at retreat schedules and made reservations and took her to a place designed for couples and played pretend while I was home being your wife. I know how bad this is. Do you? Do you know what it feels like to have your entire marriage recontextualized in 6 seconds? To realize that every time you left, I had no idea where you really were or who you were with? To understand that my trust wasn't earned, it was just stupid? You're not stupid. Then what am I, Mark? What's the word for a woman who believes her husband when he says he's at a wellness retreat? He was crying now. Actually crying, tears running down his face. I watched with clinical detachment. Even his tears felt like performance. What do you want me to do? He asked. I want you to pack a bag and go somewhere else while I figure out what happens next. Sarah, this isn't negotiable. You made your choice. Now I get to make mine. He stood slowly like an old man, walked to the stairs. I heard him climbing them, heard his footsteps in our bedroom, heard drawers opening and closing. 20 minutes later, he came back down with a duffel bag. I'll be at Kevin's, he said. Kevin, his college friend, the one who lived across town. Of course he'd already lined up somewhere to go. Of course he'd prepared for this possibility. Your daughter is upstairs, I said. You should talk to her. He looked toward the stairs. Now? When else? He set down his bag and climbed the stairs again. I heard him knock on Emma's door, heard her muffled, "What?" Heard the door open and close. Their voices were low, indistinct, but I caught fragments. His apologies, her anger, the sound of something being thrown, maybe a pillow or a book, hitting the wall. 10 minutes later, he came back down. His eyes were worse now, swollen, nearly shut. She won't talk to me, he said. Give her time. How much time? I almost laughed again. I don't know, Mark. How long does it take to forgive your father for cheating on your mother? Check the manual. He picked up his duffel, stood there like he wanted to say something else. Finally, I do love you. That's not a lie. Don't, I said quietly. Don't make this about love. Love is a verb. You stopped doing it months ago. He left. I heard his car start, heard it back out of the driveway, heard it drive away. Then silence. The house settling around me, the refrigerator humming. I sat at the table for a long time. Then I got up, went to the cabinet under the sink, and pulled out the trash bag. Started walking through the house, gathering evidence. The resort brochure, the photos he'd sent from retreats, printed and stuck to the fridge with magnets. A birthday card he'd given me in July, signed "All My Love" in his handwriting. Everything went into the bag. Everything that testified to the story we'd been telling ourselves about who we were. When I was done, I carried the bag outside and put it by the curb. Tomorrow was trash day. By Wednesday, these objects would be gone, burned or buried or scattered in some landfill, transforming from memory into nothing. Emma came downstairs around dinner time. Her face was blotchy, eyes red. She stood in the kitchen doorway, thin and angry and sad. "Are you okay?" I asked, which was a stupid question. "No, me neither." She came and sat next to me, not across from me where Mark would have been, but next to me, close enough that our shoulders touched. We sat like that for a while, not talking, just breathing together in the ruins of our family. "What happens now?" she asked finally. "I don't know yet." "Are you going to forgive him?" I thought about that, really thought about it. Could I? People did. People worked through affairs, rebuilt trust, came out stronger. The narrative existed. The possibility was real, but did I want to? "I don't think so," I said. She nodded. Good. That night, I slept in Emma's room, the two of us in her double bed, like when she was small and scared of thunderstorms. She fell asleep first, her breathing evening out, her body relaxing against mine. I lay awake, watching the shadows on her ceiling, thinking about the strange mathematics of love. How much weight can it hold before it collapses? How many small betrayals equal one catastrophic one? Can you love someone and still destroy them? The answers wouldn't come. Maybe they never would. Maybe the point wasn't understanding why Mark did what he did, but understanding what I was going to do next. In the morning, everything looked exactly the same. The sun rose, the coffee maker beeped. Emma got up and took a shower. The machinery of our lives continued functioning even though the engine that powered it was broken. I called Rebecca. "Can you help me find a lawyer?" "Of course. Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Mark texted that afternoon. "Can we talk?" I wrote back. "Through lawyers. I'll let you know who's representing me." Days became a week became 2. The house felt larger without him, echoes in rooms that had been full. Emma stopped asking when he was coming home. I stopped expecting him to. We built new routines, the two of us. Breakfast together before school. Movies on weeknights we used to save for weekends. Small rebellions against the structure he'd left behind. He kept texting, apologizing, asking for another chance. Telling me Lauren meant nothing, that he'd ended it, that he wanted to come home. I never responded. Let him live in the silence he'd created. Let him understand what it felt like to send messages into void and receive nothing back. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I signed them in the kitchen, at the table, in my spot, the same place I'd been sitting when Jessica called me Lauren, the same place where everything had broken open and spilled out. Emma came home from school and saw the papers. "Is it done?" "Almost." "How do you feel?" I thought about it, tried to locate the grief I'd been expecting, the devastation, the sense of failure, but all I felt was tired and strangely light, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to set it down. "I feel free," I said. And I was. Not happy, not yet. Maybe not for a long time, but free from the weight of pretending everything was fine. Free from the performance of a marriage that had become just that, a performance neither of us really present, both of us going through motions we'd memorized years ago. Sometimes I still think about those 9 days. Mark at a resort with Lauren, pretending to be a couple, while I was home being his actual wife. I wonder what they talked about. If he told her he loved her the way he used to tell me, if she believed him more than I had, if somewhere in her mind she knew it wouldn't last, that a man who lies to his wife will eventually lie to you too. But mostly I think about Jessica's phone call, that single moment when she said, "Hi, Lauren," and broke open the illusion I'd been living in. How quickly everything can change. How one word can rewrite your entire story. I kept the house. Emma kept her room. Mark moved in with Lauren eventually. I heard this from mutual friends who felt obligated to update me, as if I wanted to know. They moved to a different part of town. I don't know if they're happy. I don't ask. Emma sees him every other weekend, their relationship careful and strained. She forgave him eventually, the way children do. Not completely, but enough. I never did. Forgiveness felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Or maybe it felt like letting him off the hook for something that should never be forgiven. Some nights I still wake up at 3 a.m. and think about all of it. The retreat photos, the careful lies, the way he kissed me, goodbye before leaving to be with someone else. The specific cruelty of using corporate self-care as a cover story. All those people at his office who probably knew, who watched him leave with Lauren and said nothing to me. But then morning comes. Emma calls from college. The sun rises. I make coffee in a kitchen that's finally just mine. And I remember that this quiet, this peace, this life built from the ruins, is what survival looks like. It's not the story I planned, not the ending I imagined at 28 when Mark proposed in a parking lot after dinner, both of us laughing at his awkwardness. But it's honest. It's mine. And after 12 years of believing a lie, honesty feels like grace. I never went back to the table where everything broke. I rearranged the kitchen, moved the furniture, created new geography, small rebellion maybe, or just practical. Sometimes you have to change the landscape when the old one holds too many ghosts. What I learned is this: love doesn't always look like love. Sometimes it looks like habit. Sometimes it looks like wellness retreats and sunset photos and text messages that say, miss you, but mean nothing. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is recognize when you've mistaken performance for presence, when you've been so busy being a wife that you forgot to notice you were married to a stranger. I don't miss him. I miss the story I thought we were telling. But stories change. People change. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is read the room, understand the narrative is over, and walk out into whatever comes next. It's not forgiveness. It's not even peace, not entirely, but it's truth. And after everything, truth is what I have to hold on to.